in on the Facebook Live and comment and do all of those sorts of fun things as well. Shoot through any questions that you may have and I'll do my best to answer them during the session as well. And let's get started in having a look at beading over forms. So first things first, get my glasses so that I can actually see what I'm doing. And let's have a look at what I've actually got here on my desk station here to show you. Okay, so what I've actually put out is a different sort of selection of things that I have that are based on this concept of beading over forms. So these are things that have got a form underneath it and they're here ready to show you what's actually in underneath them. So I'll go through that as well. Okay, so one of the first things I have here is what is called a Christmas decoration. And if you have a look inside, it's actually got a Nespresso coffee pod underneath it. So that's one way of actually having a form and creating that concept of a beading over something. So there's the blank coffee pod and you can see it's been washed and cleaned, etc., and had the little foil moved off the bottom. And this is one of the ones that you can make. So that concept of beading over a form to create a Christmas decoration. So there's one. Another one, and this is one of my all-time most popular patterns, and it's beading over a tape measure. So you can see here there's just a generic craft tape measure, and this is actually being beaded over the top of it. So it's got a lovely cab that sits on the top. It's got some beading all the way around. It's got a little Lunar Soft cab here button to hold the button in place, so it still means that the tape measure actually works. But that's the concept of beading over a tape measure. Good morning, Kess. Welcome. So I will go on and say good morning to people as they pop up. So please make sure you come on and say hi as well. Okay, let's look at something else. So this idea of a cork. So this is a champagne cork. Here is another one that I'm playing around with at the moment. So this idea of a cork, and I've turned this into a pin cushion. So you can see here, the top of the cork is still visible. You can see the Moet and Chandon and Moet and Chandon at the bottom, but it's beaded. So I've used the cork as the basis to actually bead around it. Good morning, Cheryl. Welcome this morning. Okay, some other things that I have here. A bell. So a Christmas bell has a little bit of tiny beading and fringing on that as well. So not necessarily over the top of, but added to that particular form. These were this one and this one were both part of one of my YouTube videos I did a couple of years ago. So beading over forms for Christmas decorations. And this one here is your standard bauble. So a bauble that you can, get at Spotlight or Big W, wherever your Christmas decorations come from. And all I've done is just create a little strip there, a herringbone strip, and bead it around that one as well. So I've beaded over it, but there's still a whole lot of bauble that you can see on that one as well. Another one I wanted to show you was, this was my design I did probably about 2 years ago, and I called this one Urchin Wheel because it looks like a wheel, but it also looks a bit like an urchin. But what's actually in the centre of that is a 3D printed bead. So this idea around having this structural form inside, which is really super lightweight, but actually gives a whole lot of heft, I suppose, so that you can actually bead around that really easily. So that's a 3D printed bead that I had made in this specific size to be able to create this particular pendant. So that's one of my workshop classes. So if anyone's interested, let me know and I can run that one again. Now, a couple of other things. So this is a needle holder case. So this is a design by Annalene Butler from Kiss Beads. And you can see here, there's the needle holder. I actually use it decoratively. It's not necessarily something that's got needles in it for me. But here is the form that you can actually utilise to actually bead around that. So this is a smaller one, but it's still the same sort of concept of beading over a form to actually create a finished object. Good morning, Wynette. So that's another thing. And another one I wanted to show you. This, one of my probably most popular wears. I wear this necklace quite a lot actually. And what it's got is some beautiful glass beads in here, just strung very simply onto some ball chain. But I have these rings inside. So rings like this type of thing that you can buy from jewelry shops, someone like Lavisa or Colette where they have these sorts of necklaces, and you can cut them up and use them to actually bead around. So I've grabbed a couple of those out today. So that's just some ideas of things that have beading over the top of them. And what I wanted to do now is show you the selection of things that I have that we're going to play around with today. And I'm not necessarily going to bead over all of these things, so I don't have enough time for that. But what I thought I'd do was go through, let's have a little bit of a look and see and think what we can actually do with some of these forms that I've found here. So again, there's the 3D printed bead. So I won't necessarily do that one because I've shown you what that would look like. But again, that's something that we could actually have a look at. So that's the 3D printed bead. I have a tin. So really little tin. These are the sort of things you can get from Amazon, and I imagine it's for lip balm or something like that. But I could already see how you could bead around this. You could put a 25 mil. I'll just check the size of that lid. That lid is 50 mil across. I could get a reasonably big cab, stick that on the top and bead around it, then do some little strips around the outside. So there's one way you could actually bead around a tin. So that's one option. As I said, I've got these little rings here, and I think I'd like to use one of these to actually show you how to bead around that with potentially a right angle weave to actually do that. I have a couple of wooden beads here. So these are ones that I don't even know where I got these from, but these are the sort of thing that work really well to bead around, and you could paint them first if you wanted to. So if you didn't actually want to see the wooden form, you could paint it first in a gold or a silver or something and bead over that. So that's another idea. I have another one of my little wooden dollies here. So you will have seen the little wooden dolls. I've been featuring those a lot on different things of late. And this is the baby size one. So I'm not sure what the dimensions are, but we could try beading around one of those. I have a spoon. Now, these are the sorts of spoons. I think these are really good for a bead scoop. And I think they'd look really nice with some beading over that handle as well. So that's just an idea I've had for a while, is using one of these as a bead scoop. So that's another concept of beading over that form. I have these little metallic components that Angie sent me from Chicky Babe's Beads. So they've got a really nice sort of, open weave wire, but great basis to be able to bead around that. And of course they've got a loop at the top and bottom, so automatically you can hang something from either of those ends as well. So that's another option. I have a little styrofoam egg, so perfect for Easter beading. So I've got an idea of how to actually do that. I do have a tutorial for that at the moment as well on my Etsy store, but beading over a styrofoam form, and they're nice and squashy, so they're a really good way to actually bead around something like that. So that's the egg. I have a woolen heart, so I am actually going to do this one today. I really want to show you how to do this one. These woolen hearts, I used to use these a few years ago, and I haven't gone back to them for a while, so I thought let's have a play around with that. But these are fabulous to actually bead around, and I'll show you what the finished piece of one of these looks like. I have a tiny little jar. So these are the sorts of things that you would put, say, essential oil or, some perfume samples, something like that in it. And I thought this would be a great little project to show you how to bead around a jar and what I would use to actually hold the beads in place to start that one with. So a little tiny jar. And last but not least, I have a wooden triangle. So these were a whole bunch that I got a little while ago. And what I'm going to do is show you how my ideas of beading around that. So I think these are the three that I'm actually going to have a look at. The woolen heart, the little triangle, and the little jar. And then if I've got time, we'll go back and do some other bits and pieces as well. So let me grab the heart and I'll show you what that actually looks like when it's finished. Okay, so this is one of my woolen hearts that I did a few years ago. And you can see here the front part of this is really heavily beaded. It's got lots of little fringes and things like that are on one side. And then on the opposite side, I've created this open section at the back, and it's got the woolen heart in there. And you can actually drop a few little drops of essential oil in that center as well. So I'm going to show you the start. I definitely won't finish that today, but I'll show you what this sort of little heart looks like. And good morning, Linda. And I'm glad someone wanted to see how the heart was done because, yeah, as I said, I haven't done these for a while, but they're a beautiful finish. So that's the one we'll have a look at today, the heart. And as I said, the jar and the triangle. And if we've got time, we'll do some more things as well. As always, these sessions go for about, 2 or 3 hours. And if I don't finish things today, my aim is to try and finish them as, pretty quickly over the next sort of 24 hours. And then I will pop the finished product up on my YouTube channel later on, so you get to see the actual finished product as well. So first thing I'm doing is just grabbing some fire line. You can use thread if you wanted to for this, but I will use fire line because it's this lovely grey colour, and I will use about 1.5 meters of thread. And because it is going into a fabric, as in the wool, it's very much a sort of bead embroidery focus and stitching, so it's really easy just to use this as the form. But what we need is a really good start line to get a really good edge and distinction between the two sides, and that's what I'm going to show you how I actually do that with these hearts. If I can thread the needle, that would be really helpful to be able to do that. Okay, so, and I might have, I'm going to get a different needle, one that's a bit easier to thread. Oh, that one head's gone too. Okay, find another one. Maybe if I get one that's got thread in it, I'll know that that's an easy one to thread. Okay, so when I want to start one of these hearts, what I like to do is create that sort of foundation line that shows the distinction between each side. And to do that, I stitch a foundation row of O beads or demi-round beads. No surprise there for anyone who knows me, who knows how much I actually love those. So I'm just going to grab out a demi-round bead in the silver colour and use this as the basis for this heart. So just a few beads there in the demi-round shape. And what I'm going to do is just start anywhere on that side edge of the heart and just go through a couple of times so that it's a nice and secure start with that thread. And look how easy that woolen heart is to actually bead through. It's super easy to bead on this. But I know that this is my center line around that edge of the heart. So what I'm going to do is just do a really nice beaded edge. So I've picked up 2 beads to start with. And then I'm just going to come back up through the second bead. Just like that. So you can see they're sort of lying side by side next to each other. Again, I'll pick up another bead and I'm stitching through that heart and then come back up through the bead again. Now, having this sort of definition line on the side of my form really helps when I want to do that other decorative fringing, etc. on this particular piece. So again, I'm just stitching through the wool and then coming up through the second bead there, or the bead just added, and I'm creating that really nice line. And that row there, which is my edge piece on the heart, I can fringe that later on. I can, do some decoration, all sorts of things, but it just gives me a really good foundation and starting point for doing the rest of the fringing that happens on this heart pendant. And it's just a matter of going all the way around and then thinking, what would I like the front and back side to look like? So let's do a little bit of a poll. Will I make this one an open-sided essential oil pendant again, like I did a few years ago, or completely bead both sides with fringing to make them exactly the same on both sides, or do a one side one pattern, one side another pattern? So tell me in the comments what you think I should do on this heart. So the choices are to create an open essential oil pendant, to bead both sides exactly the same with fringing, or to create 2 different patterned sides. So have a go and tell me what you think I should be actually doing with that. So my process here is just to continue on doing this little edge. So you can see there's my lovely straight line that I'm doing now across the heart. And I'll keep, oops, pulling that through. And the woolen forms are absolutely beautiful to bead around. They give a really nice structure to actually stitch your beads into very, very easily. And of course, you know, that concept of having the woolen center means that 2 different patterns. Okay, 2 different patterns. That seems to be the winner. All right, let's do that. I think that's, yep, 1, 2, 3 people have said 2 different pattern sides. Okay, 4. Okay, that's it. I think that's the winner. So I'll keep doing this one then with my different concepts. So the 2 pattern sides that I have, I love the idea of just this sort of, you know, random fringe that you can do on these, because it's super easy to do for a start. It's a great way to use up odd beads and sort of a bead soup mentality. So you don't really have to think about what bead goes anywhere. So it's a really, really fun way. Good morning, Penny. Penny can't get the chat function on her iPad, but you've got it on the phone. Fantastic. Well, welcome, Penny, as well. So we're doing, the first piece I'm doing today is the woolen heart, and I'm just doing an edge all the way around so it shows the distinction between the 2 sides. And I'm going to do 2 different patterns on the side of these hearts. These, as I said, these make a beautiful pendant. It's a really nice way just to pop a commercial chain on it. I wouldn't necessarily bead a chain to go with this or a rope, because I think it's pretty tizzy in itself without having a beaded rope as well. That's my personal preference. You might feel completely differently, but I like the idea that it's the focal is then the main feature. So the pendant is the main feature. And I'll just keep going around like that. Now, in good news and announcements, there is a sale on my Etsy store all weekend of 50% off all tutorials. So if there's something, and I think I've got about 45 patterns on there at the moment. So if there's something you got your eye on, go and grab a 50% off. I'm celebrating having over 5,000 YouTube followers, which has been amazing. One of my videos has gone viral, which is just incredible, and had over 18 million views and got me lots of new subscribers, which is fantastic. So thank you to those who were already subscribers or new to YouTube. I appreciate that. And so there is a sale on the Etsy store to celebrate that. So please take advantage of 50% off all of those digital tutorials. And in the meantime, you can continue to learn with this content that I put out on my Facebook Lives. So I'll keep going with this. So it's just a matter of continuing on. So you can see there's the base line done here. Pretty quick and easy to get that row of beading in place. But as I said, what it does is give a really good foundation and start point though. I'm definitely going to be beading the bottle, Penny. That's one of the ones I want to do today. So our little tiny baby bottle, I'm going to show you what my ideas are for beading around a jar. Now that's obviously a mini jar, but the concept is still the same of what we're going to be doing today. So the jar, the triangle and the heart are on the cards. And then if I get to anything else, we'll have a look at those as well. But lots of ideas. So when you're thinking, one of the things I like to do when I'm, in the shops or looking at things online, my automatic thought is, can I bead on it? Is there something I can actually add beads to with that? So often we go to, particular beading focals or, glass beads or polymer clay and add beads to those. But forms are also a really great foundation for adding beads to. So I've shown you, half a dozen, if not more, different ideas that I've seen and have beaded around. And my thought process is always, how could I bead something onto that particular thing? So the idea of a spoon is a beautiful one as a beading spoon or scoop. And they were just some spoons that I don't even really know where I got those from, but just that idea of that would be a lovely beaded feature on that spoon. So I'm just finishing off doing my little heart. So you can see there's the divot center in the heart there that I've just done. And because I've gone this sort of grey and silver colour, I will continue on with sort of silver tones with this. That's the other part I like about this sort of bead soup, is that the variation comes from the different types of beads, not from necessarily different colours. So it's a really tonal piece in that it's either, you know, sort of the silver or metallics, or I think I've done this in blacks as well. But yeah, really a good way to showcase different types of beads rather than different colours. And we'll do some different patterns on each side of this. So I'll keep going all the way around. Okay. And I'm just stitching right through that heart. I'm not really, my stitches are not necessarily even or even really precise as in the same size, because it doesn't really matter. I'm just stitching right the way through. Now I'm right at the end here. So I've got enough room to just add one more in. So I'll add in my last bead there, my demi-round bead. And then what I want to do is go back and join onto the very first one that I added there as well. So again, just sort of stitch through and pull that down so that that's nice and lined up. Come on, pop into place where I want you to be. Okay, so there's my foundation row done on that heart. So you can see automatically now, okay, there's the two distinct sides on what I actually want to do on that. So let's grab out some beads and have a bit of a look at what that looks like on two patterns. On one of them I've actually utilised some nib beads. I'm just grabbing out some silver two-hole beads. So there's a bit of a selection of some silvery two-hole beads, and I've got some of those here as well. Lots of different ideas of what those sort of two-hole beads might be. Okay, now what I've grabbed here is some candy beads, some Dem Duos, some little 6mm. So, they're a bit blue. They're probably not quite the right colour, but they're hexagon beads. I also grabbed out some 3-hole beads, which are these little arc-shaped ones. So let's grab some silver ones of those out. They're not sorted by colour. They're just all popped in together because I don't have enough containers for all of them. But let's see, how many do I think I need? Because what I want to do is use them as some sort of a framing or circle on my piece. Pop them away. Okay, and then what would look really nice in the centre is possibly a Rivoli, actually. Let's get a Rivoli out. Nice little round Rivoli might just look just right in the middle of that. So let's have a look and see. Where's a round one? And draw. The other thing that would be good would be a button as well. So anything sort of round in the centre, but yeah, this idea of a little Rivoli just in the middle like that, I think, is probably what would work. Or maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, a bit bigger. But I want a clearer one, not a sparkly. Maybe that grey one there. Yeah, the grey one. Okay, so a little Rivoli in the middle of that. Now again, because it's really spongy, this wool, the Rivoli is going to sit nicely in there. I'll be able to just bead up around that edge. And then I'm sort of thinking, you know, some of these little circular arch beads might go around it. So it's just a matter of playing around with that. Now, I just got to ask, where did I get the woolen heart from? They're the sort of thing you can buy at craft shops. I know I bought these a few years ago, but you can buy them from craft places. I know if you do a search on Etsy for felted woolen heart, you should be able to find some. If you have any difficulty, let me know, because I do have some here from when I was, stashing them a few years ago. But yeah, they're definitely something you can find on Etsy. So look for felted woolen heart. Okay, grab some silver beads. So a simple capture for this is what I will do. Now, if I was being really super precise, and I probably should be, what I'm going to do is just grab my white pen over here, wherever that is. White pencil. And I'm just going to sort of mark where the centre of this heart actually is. So the heart in itself is just over 4 centimetres, so sort of 2 is the middle there. Just so that when I'm placing that rivoli in the centre, I sort of know where the middle of that is there, like that. Now, I think just to sort of hold that in place while I'm beading around it, I'm just going to pop a little tiny bit of glue behind that rivoli. And again, that point just sort of pushes right into that felt, that wool. So just hold that there for a second. In place. Just a little bit of glue. Now, we are going to bead around it, so the glue's not there to hold it firmly forever. It's just there whilst I actually want to do that little bit of beading around. Now, I'm going to just do my beaded back stitch again through that felt. And pick up, you know, two or 4 beads every time, so an even number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And just bead back through, because what I want to do is create that really nice sort of beaded edge over the heart. So come back around like that. So the glue is helping to hold that in place. I'll just pick up 4 beads and sort of do a really fine back stitch. And what I'm doing is going back and then coming through the first or the last bead of the previous set. So I'll go through 5 beads now every time, just to make that circle go around the rivoli. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and do a really nice fine sort of back stitch there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over the top of that. So you can see how that's just sort of coming around over the edge of our rivoli. And then I'll just have to do one sort of finish row of a size 15, and that will hold that in place. So again, how many did I pick up there? Oh, I picked up 3 there, not 4. Okay, so next time I better pick up 3 so that I am still going to be even at the end. So that's the one thing you've got to note when you're doing this sort of first row of cabochon capture, is that it needs to be an even number of beads. So I'd picked up 4 every time until that time, and I picked up 3. So then I just did 2 3s to make up for that. Okay, so back to my 4. And often, you know, if you don't pick it up when you're in the middle of doing the work, it's not until you get to the very end, and then you'll have to make a decision about whether you can break a bead or squeeze an extra one in. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then go through 5. And then I've probably got enough room just to squeeze 4 in at the end there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to go through the very first bead added. And there's my nice little ring now around that rivoli. I'm just going to run my thread all the way through that just to make that a really nice circle. So I'm just running the thread through the beads, not through any fabric or anything, just to sort of really align them into a nice circle there. Look at that. There's the first row done, and now we're just going to put a size 15 bead on. Now, will I do silver and gold? I like the idea of a little bit of lightness maybe, with a bit of gold in that. And this is the champagne gold colour. I know I said tonal before, but this is sort of still in the same neutral tones. So let's just pick up one size 15 and go through one size 11 bead. So I'm actually just doing some peyote stitch and putting that size 15 on the inside of my Rivoli like that. So skip over one and go through the next one. You can just use your thumbnail to sort of push that in place. And what that's doing will hold the Rivoli that we've already glued, and now we're doing this sort of stitching just around the edge to hold it in place. So just sort of flip it so that the bead goes on the inside. You can see there like that. Flip that over. And the board that I'm using here today is our newly designed desk station board. So it's a really large board, which is perfect for sitting at home on your desk, which hence why it's called desk and what I'm working on. And you can find those in our Etsy store. They're also going to be at the Bead Society of Victoria Expo in October. They'll be available to purchase there as well. But if you're not coming to that, you can find them online, available now. So check the link in the comments if you're interested in the bead station, which is available in 4 different sizes and shapes. And we do have a new one coming out in October, but have a look at the desk station if you're interested. Really great way to bead. Use the interchangeable inserts so that you can bead how you like with letters or have a freedom insert. And the best part of all is you can change your beading mat when your mat gets dirty, or you want to have a different color, or it disintegrates, because the Valix fabric does disintegrate over time. And this is a really super easy way to change your beading mat when you want to. So please make sure you have a look at the bead station. So you can see there I've sort of done the half of that, and I think what the gold actually does, it sort of makes it look a little bit like a stamen, like a flower. So I sort of like that light gold colour with the matte silver that I've used there. So I pop that over the top and I'm nearly finished. Like that. So you can see there that's holding the Rivoli in place. There. Just a matter of going through every second bead. Now you might wonder why I did that very edge bead in the first instance and not this sort of center decoration. As I said, what I want to have is 2 distinct sides, and I need to have that line that sort of shows me where those sides are. But what this edge does later on, it gives me a really good foundation to doing some sort of fringed edging as well. And if I waited until after I'd sort of beaded both sides of it, it would be really hard to get that in place. So if you're going to do something like this, I would suggest doing that at the very start. Okay, so I'm right at the very end to pick up the last one and go through that one there. Flip it over so that it's on the inside. Okay, so there's my nice little Rivoli capture all the way around. Now, because that's created this sort of peyote stitch here, what I can do now is come out of one of those size 11 beads. Actually, that's what I'll do, is I'll do a sort of peyote theme here. Is it caught through there? Sorry, I've just looped that in there. Pull that through. So now I can start to use this little gap that's here and put some bigger beads in place. So let's have a look at a gold matte bead now and see what that looks like. Because my little Rivoli is in the center there. So I've just grabbed a size 8 bead and we'll see whether that fits in that little gap. Yep, look at that, beautiful. So a size 8, and this is the Check Matte Aztec Gold. You can see there it's just going to pop out really nicely around the edge of that Rivoli. You know, it's funny, when I plan to do these sessions, I really don't know what I'm going to make. I have, if it's not a design on the fly, I sort of have a bit of an idea of what I'm going to demonstrate, but I still don't really know until I get to the beads. And this wasn't what I thought I'd be doing, but it's coming up looking really nice with this sort of silver and muted gold colours on one side. Now, the other side, I will do a fringed finish on that, and I probably won't get to show all of that today, what that's going to look like, but I will make a start on it so you get to see what I mean by that. And I also want to sort of show you how to do the edge as well. But we'll get as much of this sort of front done, or one side done. So you can see here that's just filled out really nicely. What would look really good in there now is perhaps some drops. So some drop beads might fit in there really well, like a 3mm drop. Just a matter of thinking about expanding either the size of the bead or the number of the beads when you're doing this sort of increase in a peyote round. So you could either increase the number of beads that you're using, so use say 2 size 11s or 2 size 15s in these gaps, or increase the size of the bead, which is what I've done. I've done the 15s to 11s to size 8s. So when you're thinking about making your circle bigger, it's either increase the number of beads or increase the size of the bead. And not necessarily on every round either, just until you're filling the gaps as you go. And there's my last one, and all I need to do is step up at the end of each round. So that looks really cool now with that sort of heart, round circle there on the heart. So again, I'll step up through the final. I'm going to grab out a little drop bead, I think. I did grab these circles to use at some point, and they might go, or these arcs, they could potentially go around like that. Particularly because I could sort of make that more in the heart shape. Anyway, I'll have a think about what that looks like. I'm going to grab some drops. Where are my drop beads? There we go, there's some little silver ones, I think. Silver 2.8mm drop beads. So what they're going to do is they're going to just pop in really nicely in that gap of that 8mm like that. And because they're a drop bead, see how that just finishes that really nicely? We've created a really lovely flower. Now, the other part with these woolen hearts is you can completely cover the fabric of the heart with beads if you want to, but it does look nice just to sort of see that little bit of fabric of the wool as well. So yeah, totally up to you how much you wanted to bead over this particular form, but a great way to get into the concept of beading over something is to use something like these hearts or woolen balls as well. I've done them with rounds too, a different sort of technique, a different sort of design, but same sort of technique, because the wool is just beautiful to use with beads. But as I said, you can either completely cover it or not, totally up to you. So what this has done with the little drops, it's meant that now we've got that next row of gap that I can put something in, and things will sort of go around the drop. The drop may sort of poke up a little bit because there's no hole other than the one that I've just sort of gone through like that. So what do you think of that? At some point I will show you on the close-up camera if I can get that sorted. Let me just go to the close-up camera so you can get to see over here what that looks like. Come on. You see how that looks really cool with the sort of gold and silver there? on that woolen heart. So the little drop beads are just sort of poking up, so I can come around underneath those so that they stand up a little bit more and completely bead the backside. But the depth that you get from the Rivoli and just the reflection of the beads around the edge looks really nice. So yeah, let's go back to the work over here. Okay, so let's go back and think about what the next row might be. So if I continue with the silver and gold theme, if I pick up 2 size 11s, go through the drop like that. So it's just sort of sitting on top of the size 8. 2 might be too much. I don't know yet. I'll see. I think it is going to be too much. Yep, that's not going to fit nicely. So let's come back and take 2 of those out. That's the nature of the shape of the drop, because it is teardrop shape. I don't necessarily have to fit 2 in. I can just try and fit 1 in, I think, of the silver. Or potentially another shaped bead. I did grab out some other shaped beads, but let's just try 1 silver and see what that looks like. So 1 silver. And again, because I'm using a fabric, it's really easy to pull and, you know, squeeze things in with something like this, or, you know, pull it nice and taut and get great tension as well. We'll just pop 1 silver in between each drop bead. I don't know if I like that. I think it looks a bit muddy actually. I'm going to take that out. So they can come out. They're not staying, the silver beads. So as always, when you see me design these on the go, I will swap and change if I don't like something. But that to me is a bit muddy, the silver there. So I think it possibly needs something bright, and I like the drop bead, but I think I'm going to come out through the size 8 instead and go underneath the drop bead. Okay, so why am I saying that? Because what that'll do will make the drop actually stand up. So I'm going to come out through the size 8 bead. Now I'm going to try 2 size 11s and go through the next size 8 bead. Yep. So what that's done is just pop that little drop bead up. So 2 size 11s, still I might only need 1, but I'll try 2 to start with. So you can see there what that's done is create a really nice little popped edge there of the drop bead. So pick up 2, but I think I only need 1. I am only going to do 1, but I'm still going to do the same concept. Okay, I'll just undo that again. So it is very much a trial and error to see what's going to fit in these gaps. And I like the idea of the little drop bead popping, but I'm just going to pop 1 size 11 bead behind it now, not 2, because I can pull and make really good tension with this as well. So now, who else is beading today? Is someone beading along with me, or is it just me beading? Tell me what you're actually working on as well. Hopefully you're got some good beading projects there on your desks and you're working away on them too. Would be good to hear. Now, Linda, if Linda's still on, Linda's probably in the shop. Okay, so I've come through and behind. So I'm just going through the size 8 bead and popping that little 11 underneath the drop. Yep, that's right. So you can see there that's just popped the drop bead up. So you can see that edge there, it's popped it up really nicely. So what that does is create this, you know, more of a 3-dimensional sort of look with this as well. So pop that in. Yep. Happy with that now. Oh, Wynette, that's so good. You found a heart. Found a felted heart. So you're able to bead along. That's great. So O beads or demi-round beads for your edge work perfectly to show along with this. So, I'd love to see how yours is finished. And, you're beading a warp square. Fantastic, Cass. And Anita, you're scanning photos. That's a nearly a full-time job, scanning photos, digitizing hard copy photos. Good fun. You get a bit caught up in the reminiscing when you start looking at photos like that too. Okay, so I'm nearly finished all the way around, and I really like how that's just given that little bit of dimension there to that heart. So the rivoli. One in there, and then one more to go. Okay. Yeah, it's created really good depth there. You've got demi-rounds too. Fantastic. Love demi-rounds. All right, I'm going to step up through the silver bead there. And now it's starting, a matter of continuing on doing some more peyote stitch. So let's try a 15, a demi-round and a 15 and see what that looks like. So I'll go through the silver. 11. So remember what I said, you can increase the size of your beads or increase the number of beads. So this time I'm doing an increase in the number of beads. So I'm picking up 3. So 15, a demi-round and a 15. And that creates another really nice gap there that we can fill in with something else. So demi-round, 15 demi-round and a 15. So see that lovely little picot shape that creates there? So 15 demi-round, 15, and then through the next 11. And I'm just utilising my thumb to hold this, not that it's going to go anywhere, but it's a good spot to just sort of hold my thumb and have it in place as well. So 15 demi-round and 15, and then through, just sort of flick that so that it creates that nice pointed shape there. So 15 demi-round and 15. Yep, pretty happy with that. And every time we're doing an extra row around the edge of that rivoli, it's getting more and more towards the sides of the heart. Now the challenge is, how do I completely fill in the sides of the heart in a consistent way? Because obviously this is a round shape going into a heart shape. So at some point it won't be quite as easy just to continue going around and around and around because of the shape that I'm going into, that edge there. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So this has now given me a really nice gap between the demi-round beads to actually bead something into. And this is where some of the bigger, whether it's a 4mm bead, 4mm round would fit really nicely in there. One of the 2-hole bead shapes potentially. I think that's probably not quite right yet for that, but definitely a 4mm round I think is going to fit nicely in that gap now between the demi-round beads that I've popped in place. So I'll just show you that again on the close-up so you get to see what that looks like. So have a look at that now, nice and close up there. The depth that comes from, looking into that sort of rivoli and seeing the reflection there of the beads on the inside is really cool. You can see there the sides now that I've popped those drop beads in, what that looks like. And now I've got this really lovely gap here between the demi-rounds that I'm going to pop a 4mm bead in between. Okay, so let's get out a 4mm bead. And I think Probably a gold is probably what I need. A goldy sort of coloured 4mm. Yep, there's one. Okay. There we go. It's beautiful. It looks really lovely. The texture looks really good, just sort of creating that different height and depth. Okay, so let's come up through the demi-round bead there. My needle's just come unthreaded, but I will rethread that. And I'm just going to pop a 4mm round in between each of those demi-round beads. Now, you could use a, 4mm fire polish, 4mm Rivoli, crystal, but I'm just going to use the round and see if that fits, and I think that it will. Sort of judging that size, so you can see there what the rounds actually look like in between each one. Just like that. Yeah, looks pretty good. We have to add some more thread on in a moment. I'm playing chicken with the thread. Will I get to the end of this round, or will I need to add on more? I don't think I'm going to make it right to the very end. But the 4mm rounds gives it a bit more of a regal sort of look with the pearls around the outside edge. And remember what I said about the round going into the heart shape. We're nearly at that sort of decision point around how many more rows or rounds will I actually do in this circle shape before I have to get to this point here of the heart. So, and then it's a matter of just sort of filling in the rest of the back side of this heart with some beading, which some lines or that type of thing to fill in that shape. Nearly at the end. And one more, and then I'm going to add some new thread. I'll step up through the last 4mm there. Okay, so there's my row of pearls. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Okay, I just beaded that whole pearl row and I had it on close-up cam and not on the real cam. So, I'm sorry, I will show you exactly what I did there. I was talking away and I didn't notice I didn't have it on the right camera. Okay, so what I did there was just pop a 4mm in between each of the demi rounds. So I have done all of that. So you can actually see the 4mm gold in between each of those all the way around. And now I'm at the point where I need to think about what this little section of the heart is going to do. So hopefully we've caught up now and you can actually see where I'm up to there. So I did leave that on close up and didn't show you, but I've just popped one 4mm in between each of the demi round beads. So that's not too hard to follow along, I hope. Okay, so let me just grab some more thread and pop that onto my needle here. Okay, my method of doing a thread join with Fireline is I've just tied a loop in my new thread. I pull that over the top of my working thread and draw that nice and close. I then get the scissors and give that a really nice haircut, so they're nice two clean edges. I then get my cigarette lighter and I just melt the two ends of that Fireline, so they've got the two little balls there as well, and draw those together. Rub my thumb and forefinger over the top like that. And then I've rounded out that knot, and you can see there, that's my really nice tight file line join. Okay, so we're back on track. Everybody can see me, and I've got new thread on as well. So let's go with what the next round of this looks like. So the last one I've added was the 4 mils all the way around in between each of the demi rounds. And now I want to fill out the rest of this. So if I go back to my previous one over here, this is the other one that I did, the back of this. So similar sort of design, other than it doesn't have a rivoli. It's got a central focal and then some beads around the edge. I then did these lines down to the edge of the heart. So that could be something we actually do. I'll have a think about that. Okay, so I'm now coming out of a 4 mil bead there, and what I want to do is fill in some more on that. So let's grab some more silver. I've still got those arch shaped beads, or arcs, I don't know what their actual proper name is. Those, you know, they sort of could fit potentially around. I don't know if I like it though. Okay, I'm going to just pick up 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I going to do? Let me think first. I'll pick up a 15, a demi round, and a 15 again, and I'm going to go through the 4 mil. Come on, come through. My knot comes through. Yeah. Okay, let's think. Why have I done that? What I'm trying to do is pull out this edge here so that I've got that nice demi round picot again with the 15s. Is that going to work? No, I don't think I need the 15 in there. I think I'll just try demi round on its own, so that I can then do some size 11s in between. Which one? So let's just try one demi round first and pop that in between each. Wynette, go for it. It's a great way of joining thread, and sometimes you've got to practice it a couple of times. You know, and the crystal is harder to do than smoke, just the way that it melts. So if you're trialing it for the first time, definitely trial it with the smoke file line versus the crystal, because crystal takes a little bit more practice, but it is a really good way of joining file line thread. And what I like about it particularly is that you can get really, really close to, you can get your knot really close to your beadwork as well, which means that you don't have to drag the knot through too many beads like I'm doing right now, but I'm using bigger beads, so the holes are big enough that it goes through pretty easily. But definitely try it. It's a great way of joining thread on your project. So you can see there I've just done that row of demi rounds now in between each of the 4 mils, and then we'll pop some size 11s and be really close to the edge of this piece. But the texture from the drops looks great. We might have to do another sort of row or drop feature somewhere as well to do that repeating pattern. I do like to try and do similar patterns in these rounds, so there's some continuity with the piece as well. And that's a pretty easy way to get those in. And I'm going to just step up through the demi round bead. And let's add some silver now. So 3, I think 3, maybe 4. Let's just try 4 size 11 beads. Yep. So 4 size 11 beads, and you can see as soon as I pull that through, it starts to flatten that piece down. So 1, 2, 3, 4 size 11s in between each of those. 2, 3, 4. Like that. Now I'm not stitching any of these down at this point. I think when I start to pull it towards the edge, it will join into this edge bead that we've put down. So I actually don't have to stitch these down like you would if you were doing bead embroidery as such. Yep, that looks okay. 3, 4. Just holding them in. So what do you think about this so far? This idea of beading over a really soft form, not a hard form. We will do some more hard forms shortly, but this is this soft form of a woolen heart. I think it's coming together pretty well. One, 2, 3, 4. And you can see here I'm nearly right at this point here of joining the top of the heart together. That's the tricky part when I get to that bit, but I'll show you my ideas for joining to that heart. We still want to retain the heart shape even though I'm beading in a circular motion right now. Okay, there's my row all the way around. Now what I want to do is come out through, remember I put 4 beads on, so it's an even number, not an odd number. I'm going to come out through the 3rd bead there on my little edge, okay? So that, and then I'm going to go through 2 beads the next time. And I need to pop a bead in. So remember I said about the drop, I wanted to try and keep the drop. So let's do a 15 drop and 15 and then go through 2 size 11 beads and see what that looks like. Yep, that's good. So 15 drop and 15 and then go through 2 size 11 beads. So the reason I'm going through 2 is because I had 4 beads on that edge there like that. So 15 drop and 15 and through 2 size 11 beads. Looks a bit sort of Bollywoodish or something. I don't know. I really like this sort of feature of the drop around that edge. It looks really cool. So 15 drop and 15. And these little drops that I'm using, as I said, they're a 2.8 millimeter drop. So they're little baby ones, but yeah, they look nice around that edge. So 2.8 millimeter drop. But what I suppose what I'm trying to showcase here is you can pretty much use anything that you have. It's a matter of either adjusting the bead size or the bead count to continue to expand this peyote round that we're doing. And it's sort of, you know, peyote becomes netting, becomes peyote is essentially what this is. And if you did the champagne cork class with me the other night, you'll know that that's a very, very similar technique that I did in that class as well. So using the beads, either increasing the number of beads or the size to make those variations. I'm just going through 2. Now I'm getting up to that top point here, which that's the part I really want to show you what my thought is with that bit there so that I retain that dent of the heart. Is it called a dent? I don't know what you'd call the inwards pointy part of the heart shape, but dent will do. Okay, so I've got one that I can fit here on this side. So there's my 2 center beads there. And so what I know is that I'll want them to join eventually to that little ridge there. 1, 2, I'm going to get a different one. That was a bit thick. 1, 15, drop, and 15. So let me just show you up close. So you can see here, that's where I'm so close to that edge there. I want to join those beads onto that edge part at some point. Some point soon. So 15, drop, and 15 through the 2 beads. 15, drop, and 15. Like that. Now remember what I did before with the drop to get it to sit up. I'll have to have a look at what am I going to do to try and make that drop sort of feature sit up again as well. But yeah, that looks pretty good. All right. Now, I don't think that I can continue to do more rounds around this. Indent, thank you, Penny. Not just a straight dent, an indent. I can't do more rounds because I've got no more round room at the top here, okay? So what I need to do is do something now on these sides and around the bottom, but know that I'm going to join that at the top there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come up through the 15s. How am I going to do that? Let me just think about this. I want to go behind the drop so that it sits up. Okay, that's the first thing I want to do. So let's just grab some more size 11s, and maybe I might try 1, 2, 3 size 11s. And if I go through, so I'm coming out of a 2 size 11 there. And then if I go through those 2 size 11s that I went through previously, so I've just picked up 3 and I've gone through 2. So what that's done is help that little drop just to pop up, which is what I want. So 3 11s, 1, 2, 3, go through 2, but be behind the drop like that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and be behind the drop, go through 2, just to help those little drops sit up on that edge there. Okay, I'll keep doing that. 1, 2, 3, and then go through 2. So you can see how they're just sitting up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then through 2. Yep. Just like that. Some more. So we've now got sort of, layers and a three-dimensional look because of the drops that are sitting up. The depth that comes from the Rivoli centre. These muted sort of golds and silvers look really nice together as well. And then the tricky part, the next part will be joining to the sides. So we'll start to do that after this round. And I think I'll use some size 8 beads to do that. So remember I used size 8 gold beads in the very start of this centre. We'll pull those in now as well. Now I'm up to this sort of top part, the indent here. So I'll do one more 3 behind again and through the 2 in the middle there. Yep. And 3 behind. 2 in the middle. 1, 2, 3. So there's my top part up here where I can join to those demi-round beads. Pops behind, one more. Now, as I said earlier, you can completely cover this woolen foundation fabric, or you can leave some of it exposed. And because this is pretty tonal with the colours, I think I can afford to leave some of it exposed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of that centre bead in the group of 3 that's just there. Now, I'm going to pick up a couple of gold in the size 8 beads. And I want to pick up 1, 2, 3. Now I need to judge how much depth have I got to the side where those demi rounds are. So I'm just going to pick up 3 to start with on this one. Then go through one of those demi round beads, just like that. So you can see there I've just gone through it, and then I'm just going to come back down through the 3 beads again. So I'm using the demi round as an anchor, and I'm coming back down through the center bead again. And what I've done is create this really nice pull line of beads that's actually joining to my side here. You can see how that works? Now I've got my 2 beads there in the middle. I might just pick up 1 gold bead and then come back up through the center bead again. And I need to judge how many beads do I need to go down to that side. So I'll try 3 again, and then I'm just going to choose one of my demi rounds on the side edge there and go back through the 3 beads, through the center bead and the next bead, pull that nice and taut. Now, is 3 beads too many? It might be. I might only need 2 on the sides. When I look at it, it's not completely straight and it's a little bit loose here. So I'm actually just going to undo that. I'm just going to do 2 beads on the sides so that it pulls it nice and taut. Again, it's just a matter of judging, you know, what size beads I'm going to need for this. And I've just managed to get a knot in my needle there. So I'll just snip that off. I'm actually just going to do 2. So let me just repeat that again. Again, it's a matter of judging. Now, when I come to a longer side, I might need more, but I want to sort of make sure that this pulls down really nice and tight in that work there. So I think I only need 2 beads and not 3 on the side there. But again, that's where that sort of side anchor of the demi round is really helpful. So let's just undo that. Get my needle again. So I'll go through and show you that again. Okay, so I'm coming out of the center bead of that group of 3 that I popped in before. I'm just going to pick up 2 size 8 beads and go through the corresponding demi round bead on the side there. I'm going to go back through the 2 beads, and I'm going in the opposite direction then through that 3rd or the center bead, and come through the center bead and the next bead. And so that just creates that little nice arm there. I've got a gap in the middle there, so I can just pop 1 more gold bead in between, and then I'm going to come back through the center bead of the group of 3, pick up 2, and then I'm going to go through a corresponding demi round bead on the side. So I just need to use my judgment as to which bead I'll go through so that I maintain that sort of straight line look. Then I'm going to go back through the 2 8s like that, and then through the center bead in the opposite direction and out through the next bead. Pick up 1 more gold. Now I might need 3 beads this time because it's a little bit of a longer arm there to the next demi round. So let's try 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'll go through the corresponding demi round bead on the edge. Yep, that works. come back up through the 3 size 8s, through the center bead and the next bead, pull that nice and taut. So you can see there I'm creating that really nice edge and rose there around the side. Okay, 1 size 8 in the middle, come up through. So is this one at the complete bottom. So there's the bottom point. It's not, so I'm going to have them off to either side. That's okay, just visualizing where they're going to look and feel. So 1, 2, 3, come through the demi round bead, go back up through the 3 size 8s, the center bead and the next bead, like that. 1 size 8 in the middle. So what do you think about that as an edge? 1, 2, 3. And ironically, I've sort of gone through every third demi round, second demi round. I'm just going to, that one I went through 3 at the bottom. Just sort of sizing where they're going to go through. Like that. 1. And so you still see that woolen heart there. 1, 2, 3. So I've gone through 2, 2, 3. I'll just go through 2 there. Okay. What do you think about that now? It's created this really nice sort of finish on the edge of the heart there. The gold and silver is looking really subtle together. I've gone back to 2 beads this time. Oh, one just flicked off. 2 beads and then through the demi round around the edge. And then just sort of carefully. So I'm not using it, I'm not using the heart like a bead embroidery where I have to bead into the fabric. I've created this sort of edge piece which enables me to anchor these little strands next to the piece. It's still got a little bit of openness with the fabric showing through. Created some depth with that sort of heart shape on the round shape on the front. Now this is a higher point again. This might need 3 beads this time on the higher part of the heart. So I'm just using my judgment. Does it need 2 beads or 3 beads each time with that? Maybe just 2 this time. And I think the other part is to make sure that it's symmetrical when I'm doing the other side of this heart. So remembering where I've done 3 and where I've done 2 beads. And I'm getting near to the top where we're going to have to join to the indent. And at some point it may only be 1 bead that I need just there. Let's just try 1 and see how 1 actually looks. Yep, that's about right. And because it's, you know, this nice wool, I can draw this nice and tight. Let's see how that works. Okay, 1 in the middle. And this time I'm not going to join any beads to that top part of the indent. So I'm just going to come up through a demi round bead. So I'm coming out of one of the sort of center beads, going through a demi round, not actually adding in a bead at the top edge there. I will pop a gold one in the middle. And again, just going to go straight into the edge bead and not pop a bead on the end of that center bead. Okay. So on this side I had one. Let's see if one works over here. We'll see if one works. I had one there, and then I did 1, 2, 3. It feels like one is not going to be enough on this side. Isn't that strange how? We'll see if I can pull it really nice and tight. I will make it work. Yep, I can make it work. Okay, so then another bead in the middle, and then I had 2 and 3. So 2 up through there. One more gold. And then 3. Wow, pretty happy with how this side has turned out. And one more gold. Okay, let's go over to the close-up, and I'll remember to bring you back this time and have a look like what this looks like close up. Okay, so you can see here that lovely edge that's there. Now, the depth that comes from that rivelet in the middle, and then this little edge piece, and you can see your fabric through, and that's fine. I've joined the top in the indent, and I've joined these little sides, and then this end piece here. And then it's a matter of let's do something to the other side. Okay. Now I'm not going to finish the other side of this, but I'll show you exactly what my thinking is, and I also want to just demonstrate what the edge bead looks like as well, because I want to go on and do a couple of other things today. Okay, so fringing is what I've got on the opposite side of my hearts. It's a matter of just picking up a 4 mil. I've got some teacup beads in there, some spike beads, some 4 mil fire polish, some different coloured rounds and things like that. So a real bead soup mix of things is what I would put on that fringe. I've also mounted a half domed cab thing in the centre of that one, so you can pretty much do anything you like on the back, but just fringing is what I would do. So fringing for me, and remember we're in fabric, so I can just literally pull my needle all the way through, come out wherever I like on that beadwork. And all I'm going to do is just pick up, 1 or 2 beads, a 4 mil bead, or, whatever my feature bead is, and then just fringe all that whole back piece. So it's a matter of going through and then just bringing your needle through wherever you like, and just fringing with, usually 2 size 11 beads, then a feature bead, and then a size 15 is all that fringing is on the back of the piece. It takes a little while to fill that entire piece in. As I said, I'm not going to show you all of that today, but you'll see what I mean about just adding that sort of fringe all across the back. So that's how I would do that. The next thing is the edge piece. So remember, I'm just going to bring my needle all the way up to where my edge is here. So you can do anything you like on these edge pieces. And this one I've done a size 8 bead and an O bead in that edge. It's just a matter of then picking up a bead and doing some sort of whip stitch over the edge like that. So I've just picked up a gold bead. You can pretty much, you just use that thread bridge that's there in between your demi rounds just to bead something over the top. So, you know, this idea of a size 8 that just is in between each of those thread bridges, and it flips it on its other side, and then you can pop a bead in the middle of that as well. So I'm not going to finish that completely today. I do have another YouTube video somewhere that actually shows how I do that edge, so I will find that and I'll pop that link so you can see that as well. But that's the idea, is completely fringing the back and then doing this different side on the front over this really soft form. So there's the first project that we've had a look at today. Let me clean up a couple of things on this beadboard and let's go on to our little tiny jar. And I've got some ideas of how we're going to bead the little tiny jar. Okay, there's my little jar. So it's little. It's only, 4 centimeters long by 1 centimeter round. So it's a little baby jar, but you can use this sort of methodology on any size jar. And what I'm going to do is show you how I would secure my very first round of beads on this type of a form. Now, who has used terrifically tacky tape before? So this is my sticky tape, and I use this brand. It's called Terrifically Tacky. It comes in different widths, so this is a very skinny width one. There's also can get wider versions of it, but it is perfect for sticking around an object and holding your first row of beads in place. So I'm just going to cut a little section of it. You can see it's got this sort of red film. It's very sticky on one side. And then all I'm just going to do is stick that around the inside, the center of my little jar there. Too generous with my tape there. Just cut off that little bit. And then when I peel that off, and I won't do it just yet because we're going to get some beads to go around it, it will hold that first row of beads in place so well they won't go anywhere. So let's get a couple of little beads to go around that, and some nice little flat 6mm rounds would look perfect. Let's grab some pink ones out. So any sort of little jar that you've got, you can use this type of a method to actually hold everything in place. And what it does, the little piece of tape, and I'm just going to grab some new thread, the little piece of tape that's there, it's clear and see-through, so you won't see it on your work. And it's sticky enough to hold it, but it's also not that sticky that you can't take it off if you get something in the wrong place. So it's tacky, so it will hold your beadwork in place, but it won't be so tacky that you can't remove it if you get them in the wrong spot or you change your mind about the beads that you want to use. So terrifically tacky tape is my secret tip for beading over jars or like the styrofoam eggs. Those sort of things is what you'd actually use this tape to hold your first row when you've got a round surface. Okay, now I just grabbed out some little pink 6mm beads there, and let's do a really bright contrast colour with that. Let's do an orange. So some pink and orange beads together. And my first little row, let's just pop some beads on the needle and see how many I need before I peel off the tape. So these are 6mm rounds. They're a 2-hole bead. I'm just grabbing, putting a size 11 in between each one of these little 6mm. Now these little tiny jars, as I said, you could use these for, a little essential oil or a little drop of perfume. Really nice little tiny gift jar that you can give to somebody. And I think I'm probably going to need 5 beads maybe to go around, maybe 6. Let's see how many I'm just guesstimating. 6 is going to be probably enough of these little 6mm 2-hole beads, and I've just popped a size 11 in between each one. And what I want to do now is just make sure that's going to wrap around, yep, my little jar. I'm going to tie a really loose knot before I tighten that and tape it down to my little jar. So as I said, terrifically tacky tape, so just a loosish sort of knot there. Let's peel off the first of that red backing tape. So you can see there I've just peeled that off. So it's really hard to actually see the tape there. But there is that tacky tape just there underneath that. So now I'm just going to grab my beads and I'm sticking them where I want them to be, in that row around that jar. I've got my nice loose knot there that if I start to draw that a bit tighter, that's easier. And now I can just pop those beads, and you can see I can sort of just move them. The tape holds them in place, but it's not so sticky that I can't actually move things if I need to. So I'm just sort of spacing out my 6mm and my little size 11s by moving them on the tape. You can see how, and that's sort of holding it, but it's not so stiff like, you know, some sort of glue that I can't move it if I need to. So again, I'm just going to come back through that one of the 2-hole beads there and come back through the other side so that I can pop another size 11 in between each of those. Move that tail thread out of the way and just grab a size 11 bead and pop that in between each one. So that's the first row of beading a jar, is getting your foundation row done first with that little bit of tacky tape holding your foundation row in place. And I'm just now, and a 2-hole bead is a really great foundation row to use as well, because you've got the option of popping, you know, your size 11 or 8 or whatever bead in between, but the 2-hole bead, you can bead around those really easily. So you can see there's my first row of 2-hole beads around that jar. I'm going to come up through one of the size 11 beads there. Let's get out some other colours. Some pinks maybe. This favourite colour, fuchsia opaque fuchsia luster. So I just picked up a hot pink, I think 2 orange and a hot pink, 4 beads that'll go around the top of that little round like that. Okay, so pink, 2 orange, so 4 beads to go around the top. Go through the next little round. So really quick and easy way. Now I'm using a little tiny baby jar, but you can do this exact technique over any round jar, round slippery surface. Use your tacky tape to hold things in place in the first instance and get your foundation row set. And then it's a matter of beading up and down each side of your jar or bowl or whatever it is that you're beading over. And this is just a really quick and easy way to get that foundation row on that little jar. Okay, so there's my first side done around the 6mm round. You can see that? And what I'm going to do is go through the 2mm and come back the opposite direction through one of the size 11 beads again. At some point I'll be able to just remove that tail thread. Not just yet, but I will just sort of snip that off. So again, I'll repeat the same pattern. So hot pink, 2 orange and a hot pink, and go through the size 11 bead. So I'm just forming that nice ring around. I can pull that tight. I can still sort of move it on that tape, but it is holding it in place really well. So hot pink, 2 orange and a hot pink. I'll just get my sort of gaps to be the same. It's a matter of using your judgment as to how many beads you'll need to either go around in your initial row of your piece. You can see that I just picked up 2 pink by mistake. Let's just break one of those. I'm creating this really nice little bubbly jar with the 6mm cabs and some size 11 beads. And it's a matter then of continually netting and beading around this surface. Now, the start row, you want to make sure that it's level and it's sort of straight on your piece as well. I'm only using a very small jar, so it's pretty easy to eyeline and see that it's level. But if you were using something bigger, you may need to be a little bit more precise in where you place your tape. So you can see here, and I seem to have frozen, so please tell me if I'm not frozen for you. I hope not, but it looks to have frozen for me. Let's just check. Let's say, no, I'm not frozen there. Okay, let's just hope it comes back. Okay, so I'm now coming up through my 2 beads, and then I want to add in something in between that. So I'm going to grab a 3mm, will fit nicely. And again, I'm going to go for a really bright colour. I seem to have frozen still on screen, so I don't know what's going on with you guys, but I can see me moving. If someone can message me on Messenger and tell me if I'm frozen for you as well. So I've just grabbed out a 3mm fire polish, and I'm just going to go through. I've come out through 2 beads. I need a 15 either side of that. Let's just grab the gold 15s, wherever they are. Yeah, we seem to have lost connection. It's telling me that I'm still live. Okay, tell me that you've come back. I feel like I've come back to you. It seemed to have paused for a little minute there, so let's hope that that's come back. Tell me whether you can see me back again. Yay, I'm back. Terrific. All right, so I'll just sort of show you where I was up to while I was frozen for you. I've done the 2 rows of size 11s either side of my little jar here. And what I'm doing now is just filling in that gap. So I've got 15 and a fire polish and a 15, and I'm just going through the 2 beads like that around my little jar. So 15, a fire polish, a 3mm fire polish and a 15, and then through 2. So it's just a matter of sort of repeating that pattern around my little tiny jar. Okay, so good. I'm back for everybody. Fantastic. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know what happened then. We did have a power outage here this morning, so I was a little bit panicked around 9 o'clock when I had no electricity at all in my house, but it did come back on. We have lots of power outages here where I live. I don't know why. It drives me nuts. And it means that the Bluetooth drops out, all of the Alexa things drop out, have to be reset, and it goes off regularly. Okay, so I've just done one little row there of 3mm, and I've used the 2 beads in between each one there like that. And now this is sticking, sitting really firmly on my little jar. Remember, I've just done that 1 row of tape that you can't see there in the middle. Okay, let me just take off that tail thread that we had there from the very start. I don't need that anymore. And now it's just a matter of thinking, well, what beads and what sort of netting features do I want to have now on this little jar? So with this nice row of 2 size orange 11 orange beads, let's just pop 2 in between each one now. So I go through the 3 beads like that and create that little gap with 2 orange. And I went through the 3, but I think I might just go through the fire polish actually. So I've picked up 2. Sorry, I'll come back out through the 15. Okay, so I'm coming out through the fire polish, just pick up 2 size 11s and go through the next fire polish bead. Yep, that's it. 2 size 11s and through the next fire polish. 2 11s. So this, you know, little pale pink and orange colours with a little bit of gold. I love these sort of colour combos together. And I've got this lovely little black lid that we really do need to bead over the top of the lid as well. So when I'm thinking of this little jar and the lid, again, I will use a piece of tape to hold that first row of beads down on the lid. So the terrifically tacky tape is perfect for creating that first row around the lid of this little jar too. So okay, there's my first go at doing that part. Now what will we do next? Let's do some pink. So I'm going to try 3 pink this time. Might even try 4 pink and go up through the fire polish like that. Because what I want to create is this sort of loop that sits underneath that way. So let's try 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the pink and go directly under the 2 orange beads from before and create a nice sort of little loop underneath like that. Is that going to work? It's sort of popping the 2 beads up. Get my handy awl. Yeah. No, I don't know if I like that. I'm just going to undo that. I should have gone through the 2 beads, not through the fire polish again. Because I didn't actually step up at the end of that previous row. No sound though. Please tell me you can hear me. Cheryl, oh, my sound seems to be working. Gosh, what a technical mess this is if you can't hear me. Oh, it tells me sound is working. So if anyone else can't hear me, please tell me if you can't hear me. Technology, you've got to love it, don't you? I mean, it's so good. Oh, Anita can hear me. Yep, good. Okay, that's not here on my end then, Cheryl. Maybe that's you. Because, yeah, let's hope that's all working properly as well. Technology, goodness gracious. And I don't have my brother here to help me today. He's off fishing somewhere. So I'm flying solo. Okay, so I'm going to come back through this 2 orange beads that I added before. And let's do some pink now. So let's try 3 pink underneath the fire polish and go underneath. Yep. So 3, and that's the beauty of working with glass like this as well. You don't have to completely cover it. You can still see the light of the glass come through. I'm going to do some more stuff in between these holes on the 6 mils as well. So some sort of crisscross embellishment is what I can see happening there. Maybe a little crystal or something like that. But I just want to get to the bottom of the jar. And I went too far then. Oh, gosh, Paula. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So there's another row done. Again, this is not moving. It's stuck on really well with that, tacky tape. Again, I'm going to come and do another row of 2 oranges again in here. So let's just pick up 2 orange and go through the 3 beads previous. So again, this is a peyote methodology, using either a different bead size or different bead count in between to create that different row and look. And only 6 starting beads for this with the 6 mils. So not a huge amount of beads or investment in this particular piece, but the same methodology that you would use on a bigger jar or round surface. So continuing to do my step up or step down at the end of each row so that I'm in the next position to add on whatever bead pattern I decide to do. Okay, so there's some more. And I'm going to step up through the 2 orange beads there as well. So I could continue adding some more pink, but I could add another orange fire polish again. Let's try that one. And it's really something that it starts to, I've got no pattern in mind when I'm making this. It just starts to form its own pattern. The more you build, each row tells you what the next row is going to be. So I've just picked up a 15 3mm and a 15 again. Just repeat that around. So all of a sudden I've created some nice little lines and repeating parallel pattern on this little tiny jar in my nice orange and pink colour combos. Now I want to do some sort of beaded bottom on this jar as well, but you also want to make it that it still stands up. So I don't want to put anything too lumpy on the bottom, because then the little jar will fall over. So I'll need to think about what the bottom of this netting might look like as well. So there you go, there's my next row. Again, I'm going to come up through the fire polish and pick up 2 orange, go through the next fire polish. Yep, so you can see there's my pattern repeating each time on those little rows. Okay, 1, 2. So have you got any little jars at your place that you could think about beading? I've got another little vase here that was another idea that I had as well. And I would do exactly the same sort of thing. Start off with my row of tape around that centre or wherever I want to start my beading from. And do a foundation row of some beads that have got 2 holes in them. I think are fantastic for this sort of foundation row, because it means that you can bead up and down on them as well. And then just, start adding beads around the sides, doing your little sort of netting rows and peyote rows. So again, I've just picked up the 3 pink. So you can see my patterns repeating again there. And the 3 pink around the edge. Go through the 2, my 3 pink, and through the 2. So I'm getting close to the bottom of my little jar as well, and my little vial. Right. Like that. So you can see how far I am away from that little edge where I want to sort of do some netting over the edge very, very soon. Okay, let's see. We might do one more row of the 2 orange, and that'll make 5. Yep, okay, 1, 2. So I've just stepped up through the pink there and just adding the 3. Okay, oh good, you can hear me now, Cheryl, that's terrific. And need to go and find some tape. So that tape, I'm pretty sure that came from maybe Amazon, but yeah, terrifically tacky tape. And that one that's only thin, that's only, you know, half a centimetre, about 5 mil, comes in different widths as well. So depending upon how big or small your piece is, you might need a wider piece of tape. Just gets a little bit trickier to get it level, but that's part of the fun. Okay, now I want to do some net across the bottom of this piece. So to do a net, you can see there's my little bottom of the jar, which looks beautiful. Nets need to come up in a point over the top there. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to pick up 5 beads. I'm going to pick up 2 pink, 1 15 and a pink. And I'm going to go through the 2 orange like that. So you can see there's my little net that's going to come up over the edge. So 2 pink, a 15 and 2 pink, and go through my 2 like that. So I'm creating that nice little net. 2 11s, a 15 and 2 11s, and go through the 2. 1 2 1 2, and through my 2 orange like that. 1 2 1 2. And that, you know, when I'm, you know, playing around with this sort of thing, this is where the design starts to come into. I think, oh, I might make that, you know, points sit out. You could make them sit out like little legs like that. And, you know, bead, actually, that's probably not a bad idea if I sat it like that. So can you see how that sits? Then I can do, you know, bead not only the bottom, but, you know, make them sort of sit out. So we might do something like that as well. Okay, now let's close up the bottom of this though first. So I'm coming out through the centre size 15 bead. I'm just going to pick up a 11, a 15 and 11 again and go through the next centre bead. And what that does is start to close up my little ring there. So 11, 15 and an 11. Yep, that's perfect. 11, 15 and 11. And because I'm going through the existing 15 bead there, I've now got an alternating row of 11s and 15s. So just how it's worked out. So you can see how that now just closes around the edge of that jar really nicely. So 11, 15 and 11, go through the centre bead, 11, 15 and 11 and through the centre bead there. And now I've got a nice little ring that's around the bottom of my jar. What I'm going to do now is just going to go through all of the size 11 beads. I'm just running my needle through that to tighten that. So I'm not picking up any beads, I'm just running it through the 11 beads. And that'll make that circle tighten up really nicely. And I can think about, you know, some sort of little feet around the edge of this little jar. Make sure that it still stands nicely and flat on a surface. I'm sure it will, but put that on the inside. Okay, there's my nice little circle around the bottom. Does it stand up? Yes, it doesn't fall over, which is good. Okay. Now, I don't need to actually completely cover that bottom in. You could if you wanted to, but remember it's a jar, and so if I, you know, decide to put any liquid or anything inside it, I'll still be able to see if there's anything in it if I don't completely cover that up. So just run that through and tighten that again. Okay, now I've got these nice little gaps here on the side. As I said, I could make some sort of feet or, you know, flare out part as well. So let's have a go at doing that. And what I'm going to do is repeat exactly that same sort of thread path that I had before. So I'm coming again out through those 2 size 11s. Let's pick up, I'm going to do 3 pink and 1 15 and 3 pink, just so that it's a bit of a deeper net. You can see that sitting off the side. Beautiful. Okay, so 3 15, 3 11s, 1 15, and then 3 11s. And as you can see, I am literally making this up as I go along, just to create that sort of embellished look around the bottom of that little jar. 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and go through the 2. I need some more pink. And then we'll do some little bit around the top, and then I'll have a go at doing the lid as well. 1 2 3, 1 2 3, like that. It looks like a little sort of flower at the bottom. 1 2 3, 3 through the 2. Okay. So when my little jar stands, you can see those little nets at the bottom. Okay. So as I've said, this is a tiny baby jar, but it's exactly the same no matter how big or small you're actually doing. Now, I could make these stick out even further or be a little bit more secure. If I come up through the size 15 bead there, I'm actually just going to come down through 2 on this side. So I've just come through 2 beads. And I want to make another little net in here. So I'm just going to pick up 11, 15 and 11 in the orange colour. I'm going to go up through 2 on the pink. I'm going to skip over the 15 because that'll make it point. You'll see what I mean when I pull that. I'll just grab my awl to make sure that it's in the right spot. The 15, when I pull that nice and tight, that little point should pop out there. Yep. So now I've just picked up an orange 15 and an orange, and I'm going to go up through 2 beads on my previous set, skip over the 15 and come down through 2 so that my 15 pops out on the edge there like that. Just create a little bit more structure to the base of this. So 11, 15 and 11, up through 2, skip over the size 15 and down through 2, make that pop. 11, 15 and 11, up through 2, skip over 15, down through 2, 11, 15, 11. Oh, someone's found the tape. Thank you so much. Would that be Linda, I'd say? Yes, good on you, Linda. Thank you. Linda's very good at finding things and putting them in the chat. I appreciate that. So that's where you can get the tape from, or Linda might even stock it in her store as well. But great craft tape to have on hand, the double-sided, terrifically tacky tape. Okay, so there's my little frame now around the base of the jar. Makes him just sit up a little bit better. I'm going to take the lid off for the minute because I want to bead up to the edge of this jar. So I'm going to run out of thread very soon, but that's okay. We can always add in new thread using the lighter method, so with the crystal. So I'll show you how much trickier that is using the crystal thread. So just maneuver my thread to come back up near the top of my little jar. So I'm just going through the beadwork at different points. Actually, I'm actually going to just snip it off because I've got a little knot in there anyway, and it's annoying. I'll just snip it off. And well, let's add in a new thread. So this one's gotten a bit manky. Okay, get some new thread. Okay. Thread my new thread, and now I just want to repeat, I want to do some sort of patterning. Hi, it's Paula from On a String, and I'm back with my continuation of Facebook Live and recording of the session that I started this morning. So I had some technical difficulties and my monitor completely cut out and I couldn't see what was going on. So I know where I was up to when I was filming earlier today. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do some more work and show that, but I'll do it in a step-by-step process. So let's have a look at where I was up to. So I was showing you my little jar here and the bottom of that where I'd done this sort of little feet around the bottom of it. And my next roll was to add the new thread and start to join in up around this top section. So let's go back to that and have a look at what I was actually doing. So I've got my thread on the needle, which is where I left things. I'm just going to come up through a pair of those size 11 beads there and continue on with the same sort of theme again. So again, I'm just going to pick up a 15, a fire polish and a 15 and go through the next two beads here in the orange on the top so that that little fire polish sits in that little gap there between the 6 mils like that. So I'm just going to continue that around and I'll come back and show you what the next step looks like. Okay, I'm on the next step. So I've come out through the 3 mil fire polish and I'm going to repeat the same again. So just picking up two of the size 11 orange beads and going through the fire polish again. So it's sitting just on top of the existing on top of the existing size 11 beads. So I'll do that. Then I want to put some of the pink in to replicate the hot pink colour as well. You can see that there. And I'm coming to near the top of the little jar or bottle, so it's slightly starting to curve up at the top, so I won't need the same type of bead counts again. So I'm going to step up through the two orange beads like that, and let's just add in 3 of the pink and go over the top, so through the orange again like that. That way. 1, 2, 3, so over the top. And I think the other fun thing to do with this little jar will be to bead something that sits on the top of the lid. I think I was getting and showing what I'd done with the Shrink-It on another jar, so let's just have another look at that and see whether that's appropriate as well. So you can see there's the pink. And I'm going to step up through the centre bead here because I'm now coming over that curve there on that little bottle, so I want to do something that's going to sit over the curve. Let's have a go at an orange, 15 and an orange, and go through the centre bead again, like that. Orange, 15 and orange through the centre bead. Orange, 15 and orange through the centre bead, and then orange, 15 and orange through the centre bead again. So that's probably enough to go to the top of the jar. And then when I pop the little lid on there, yep, look, that fits just really nicely. So the next thing will be to add some tape like I did before around the lid and then pop something on the top of the actual little jar. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Okay, I've got this little jar here that has some glitter and things in it, and I've created this little stack of shrinkets and wooden beads that sits on the top of the lid. So that'd be something that I could do with this type of thing. That's actually beaded straight through to cork, so this would have to be glued onto the top because this is a plastic. So let's have a think about what I might glue onto the top of the lid of our new little beaded jar. So I've just added a little piece of tape around the jar lid like I did on the actual glass component. And I'm just going to peel off the red section. And so there's a really good foundation for me to just stick something around that particular lid. I'm going to pop it onto the jar to bead it on. And I could repeat the same sort of bubbles that I've got here on the sides. Before we do the lid, I'm just going to do some decoration in between the gaps here on our bubble beads, the 6mm cabochons. So I'm just going to bring the thread down to one of those little sections. And it's more so that you actually don't see any thread or gaps in this one, which is why I'm doing this. So bring my needle all the way to come out of one of those 6mm beads. You can see that there. So you can do a sort of a crisscross section. So if I pick up an orange, a pink and an orange, and I come back through in the opposite direction, like that. Actually, I think I need a gold because I think that's a little bit lost, a bit busy. So let's just rethink that colour selection. Let's grab a gold 11 instead. So instead, let's get a gold, a pink and a gold, and just come back through like that. If I do gold, pink and gold again, and come back through the opposite way, you'll see what I'm going to be doing here. So you can see there I've got that on either side. So I'm going to come through the pink bead, which is the centre bead. I'm just going to pick up a gold and go through the next 6mm. So it actually creates that little crisscross in between the two beads like that. So again, I'll just pick up a gold, a pink and a gold, come back through the 6mm, and I need to just add one gold on this side, come back through that pink bead again, which is the centre bead. So you can see it's just created that little cross pattern that sits in between the bubbles like that. So I'll manoeuvre my thread to come out of the right section again. So I'm just going to repeat that all the way around our little bubbles and create these little crisscross bands that are in between each of these beads. So again, I'll pick up a gold, go through gold, pink and gold, go back through this way, another gold through the pink centre bead. Just use your nail to pop that into place and move that all the way through again. Go through the pink, pick up a gold, gold, pink and gold, through the 6mm, gold through the pink, pull my thread all the way through, and come all the way through again. Okay, nearly finished that, so I'll just keep doing that. So again, I'll come back through the pink bead, pick up a gold one, go through the bubble bead, gold, pink, gold, back in this direction, pick up the the gold bead and go through the pink again. So I'm nearly back to the start of this, my first initial one. But this time I've just got to add a gold, go through to the other side, add a gold, go up through the pink, add a gold, come back on this side, and add one more gold. Okay. So now I've got these little crisscrosses that are in between each of the parts of the jar as well. So this little tiny vial is now looking like a bit like an I Dream of Jeannie house, looking really pretty now as well. So let's just finish this thread off and then have a look at what the lid is going to look like. Okay, so here I am back with my little beaded vial jar completely finished. So in terms of the lid, I put the tape around the lid like I did in the middle of the jar, and then I built a little section very similar to what I did with the jar itself of the bubbles, and then just doing some wrapping loops around the edges. I also did the same crisscross section in between each of the bubbles. But what was different for this one was I actually did 2 size 11s in between the 6mm, not one like on the previous one. I also then did a little tiny piece of tape on top of the lid and glued or stuck down the 7th little bubble on the top, and then just beaded up over the edge of that as well. So there's my little vial completely beaded. I also reinforced the bottom here as well and just did a little bit more beading in that section. So that one's done. Hey, it's Paula from On a String, and welcome back to the end of the session that I started yesterday. And I'm going to go through and show you the 2 different projects that I actually completed and what my steps were to actually do that. So if you were joining along yesterday, you would have seen me do a beading session, beading over forms, and I chose to use a woolen heart and a little glass vial to do that beadwork. And I'm going to show you today how I actually finished both of those projects off. Okay, let's have a look at the heart first. So you saw me do the beading on the front of the heart where I created this sort of round circular look, and then did some little strands so that you can just see the woolen heart underneath that. Then I decided to actually do the back a little bit differently than my initial thoughts. My initial thoughts were to do fringing, but what I decided to do was do these long strands of random beads. So I used the gold and silver, and then some mix of sort of 4mm and 3mm in that. And I used the demi-round beads as the anchor point. So I started at the centre, did a strand down through the demi-round bead, and then back up, and just repeated that on both sides. So I'm really happy with how that actually turned out. I think it's a really cool feature. Then across the edge, I actually did a whip stitch of the silver bead and a size 15 bead in between each of the demi-rounds. So you can just see that really fine edge there, all on that demi-round first base that we did. I then just created a really simple bail over the top of that, just with some odd count peyote. So that's ready to actually have a chain or silk ribbon, something like that on that. So that one's completely finished, and I'm super happy with how that heart actually turned out. And if you'll remember, that's what the woolen form actually looks like. In terms of the little jar, so I used a tiny little vial as my sample, but you could use any sort of jar and you do the same sort of technique. So it was a matter of putting the tape all the way around the jar to actually hold the initial beads in place. So you can see here, this is where I started with the pink 6mm cabs. I then beaded down to the end, and then did some more beading at the top. I reinforced the bottom by just doing an extra row of the fire polish beads on there, and did a little sort of tiny point so that it's like a little stand. Then when I did the lid, I did exactly the same technique. So I did some tape around the lid edge, and then I popped a little tiny piece of tape on top and stuck another 6mm there. Did the same sort of edge technique, and then just capped off the top by beading up over the edge of the 6mm cab. So there's my little jar, complete, and along with the heart. So thanks for those who came along and stuck with me yesterday. I hope you do enjoy seeing these finished products, and I've certainly got some more ideas of other forms that I'm going to bead over as well. Thanks for that. Have a great day. Bye for now.